Sometimes not giving them the reaction they expected is the reaction that changes everything. They expected you to chase, to fold, to crack under pressure, to prove your worth by chasing theirs. But you didn't. In that moment, my friend, the one where you stayed still while they expected you to beg, that's when the power shifted. That's when the script flipped. You didn't play their game, and that's what made you unforgettable. Now imagine this. You're running after a butterfly. It's colorful, dancing in the air, just out of reach. You're running through tall grass, tripping over roots, chasing something that doesn't want to be caught. But the moment you sit down, the moment you stop chasing, the butterfly comes and lands right on your shoulder. That's life. That's energy. That's how people are. The more you chase, the more they pull away. But when you sit in your stillness, when you stop begging for what doesn't value you, everything starts coming back in ways you never expected. You see, they wanted you to run. They needed your reaction to feel powerful. They pulled away not to lose you, but to control you. It's a silent power play, withdrawal, silence, mixed signals, and most people fall right into the trap. But not you. You didn't take the bait. You chose to disappear in the most dangerous way possible, by going inward, by focusing on yourself, by becoming unavailable. And that, my friends, is what they never saw coming. They said, if you care, you'll fight for them. But caring doesn't mean chasing. Respect doesn't mean begging. Real strength isn't loud. It's silent. It's sitting with your pain and using it as fuel, not a leash. It's knowing your worth so deeply that someone else's confusion doesn't shake your certainty. You chose yourself, and that is not weakness, that is evolution. Let me break a lie they've fed you your whole life, that walking away means you gave up. No, walking away means you grew up. It means you finally realized your peace is more valuable than their presence. You saw the manipulation, you felt the imbalance, and instead of explaining yourself, you let your silence say everything. Have you ever seen a lion chase a fly? No, because lions don't waste energy on what doesn't deserve it. And that's who you've become, the lion in the tall grass. Quiet, focused, deadly in your self-control. You don't need to roar to be dangerous. You don't need to react to be powerful. You're not trying to be seen. You're becoming someone they can't ignore. They thought you'd be waiting. They thought you'd break. But now they're sitting with the ghost of a person they used to control. And that ghost isn't haunting them with pain. He's haunting them with peace. That unbothered energy says, I don't need you to remember me. Life will do that for me. So here's your reminder. You don't need closure. You don't need validation. You don't need to chase. What you need is to rise, to evolve, to become so solid, so focused, so unavailable that they feel your absence more than they ever felt your presence. Write it in the comments right now. I don't chase, I evolve. Say it loud. Feel it deep. And if this hit you even a little like the video, subscribe and stay with me because we're only just getting started. 1. The power of inaction. When you stop reacting, you stop bleeding. Sometimes silence is the sharpest sword you'll ever carry. They expected you to move, to run, to react like every other time they pulled away, but this time you didn't flinch. That stillness, that silence, it hit harder than 1,000 words ever could. Because nothing scares someone who plays games more than a person who refuses to play at all. Imagine standing in a battlefield, not with weapons in your hands, but with calm in your chest. Everyone is shouting, swinging, losing control, chaos everywhere. But you stand still, you breathe, you observe. That's not fear, that's mastery. And to the one who started the war, expecting you to lose your mind, that calm is terrifying because it means they no longer control the outcome. When someone pulls away, when they ghost you, ignore you, or try to bait you with silence, what's the first thing your mind screams? Say something. Fix it. Don't let them walk away thinking you didn't care. The fear kicks in, the fear of losing them, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of looking like you don't care when you actually do. And that's where most people crack. They panic, they chase, they plead for clarity. But here's the truth, my friends. You don't owe anyone your peace just to prove you care. You don't owe anyone your dignity just to keep their attention. They wanted chaos. They wanted to feel in control by getting under your skin. But when you give them nothing, no reaction, no chase, no closure, you take all that power back. Your silence forces them to sit with what they did. It removes the emotional reward and makes them face the echo of their own actions. But let's be honest, not reacting isn't easy, especially when you care, especially when your heart feels like it's screaming for answers. You start wondering, what if I'm making it worse? What if they think I never cared? What if they move on because I didn't fight? That's the trap. That's how fear lies to you. You've been told your whole life that love means proving something, that real men chase, that silence means losing, that detachment is cold. But let me break that for you. Silence isn't cold, it's controlled. Detachment isn't the absence of love, it's the presence of self-worth. Not chasing isn't giving up, it's rising up. As Epictetus once said, we cannot control the actions of others, only how we respond to them. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Not out of spite, not out of pettiness, but out of peace, out of self-respect, out of the understanding that your energy is sacred. Because here's what happens when you stop reacting. They start questioning, they start wondering, they start feeling the weight of the silence they created. And that's what they never expected. They thought you'd spiral, that you'd panic and reach out. But you didn't. You stayed still. You let the silence do the talking. You let them sit in the space they created, and now they're stuck wondering, why isn't he reacting? Did he ever care? Did I lose something valuable? That's not weakness, that's emotional discipline. But yes, it's uncomfortable, it's lonely. It's hard to sit in silence when your mind is screaming for answers. But this is the part where you level up. This is where you show yourself what you're made of. Because if you can sit through the storm without begging for sunshine, then you've already won. This is the moment where the world sees a different version of you. Not the one who chases, not the one who explains, but the one who holds the line, the one who owns his energy, the one who doesn't hand over power just to feel seen. So show them, show yourself, show the world what it looks like when a man chooses peace over panic, stillness over spiraling, power over pleading. Write this in the comments right now. I respond with power, not panic. Let it be your mantra. Let it be your mirror. Let it echo louder than any message you could have sent. What's coming next? Let's just say they set the rules, but you're about to flip the entire game. 2. You let them feel the space. The absence of your energy is often louder than the presence of your words. They expected a return. That's the thing they always do. They create distance, expecting you to fill it. They go quiet, expecting you to chase the silence. They test you, thinking you'll crack, that you'll rush back in just to restore the connection they broke. But instead, you let them feel the space. And that space, it's cold, it's quiet. It doesn't come with explanations. Let me paint the picture. Imagine you're at a dinner table. Every night you bring warmth, conversation, effort. You show up, but one day the other person stops setting their plate. They pull back their chair, they stop talking, and they wait. They wait to see if you'll start begging them to come back to the table. Most people do. Most people would light candles, cook meals, send texts, post stories, try anything just to bring them back. But you got up and cleared your plate. You didn't make a scene. You didn't flip the table. You just left the silence exactly where they put it, and you let them sit in it. That's what they never see coming. That your reaction wouldn't be panic, but peace. That you wouldn't start performing for attention, but reclaiming your presence. But let's be real, this space you created, it's not easy, it's not comfortable. You'll wrestle with the questions. What if they never reach out? What if I'm losing them by staying silent? What if they think I don't care? These questions come from fear, not truth. And fear is a liar with a loud mouth. You're not losing them, you're finally seeing them. You're not silent because you don't care. You're silent because you finally do. But this time, you care about yourself. You see, most people confuse access with value. They think just because you're always there, you'll always be there. They treat your presence like a guarantee. But when you pull it back, not out of anger, but out of alignment, it shocks them. It unbalances them. Suddenly, you're no longer predictable, no longer orbiting, no longer easy to reach. And that's when they start to feel something strange. Not guilt, not regret, not yet. They start to feel your absence because your energy was never average. Your consistency wasn't common. Your loyalty, your presence, your attention, it all had weight. They just didn't feel it until it was gone. That's why the space matters. That's why you don't fill the silence for them. You let them sit in what they created. And you, my friend, you don't sit still doing nothing. You use that space, you grow in it, you breathe in it. You start pouring all that attention, all that care back into the person who deserved it the most this whole time. You. That's the shift they never expect. That while they're scrolling and wondering if they've been forgotten, you're not even looking in their direction. You're too busy becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need to be chosen because you've already chosen yourself. That space they wanted, you gave it to them generously, fully, without a word. And now they're realizing that space came with consequences, because when you left the table, you took the warmth with you. So here's your reminder. Your presence is not a gift you give for free. It's a privilege. And when someone misuses it, you don't explain your silence. You let them feel it. Write this in the comments right now. My absence creates clarity. Let them feel the space. Let the silence echo the game they thought they were playing. You're about to show them you were never even in it. 3. You focused on rebuilding while they waited for you to fall apart. You were busy building the version of you they'll never have access to again. Let's be real. When they walked away, they didn't expect you to get stronger. They expected silence to crush you. They expected the distance to make you crumble. Maybe even hoped you'd come crawling back just to feel something again. But you didn't collapse. You constructed. You picked up every shattered piece, not to rebuild what was, but to build something new, something better, something they don't get to witness anymore. Imagine this. Your life is a construction site. For the longest time, you had someone else walking through it like they owned it, picking up your tools, knocking down your progress, slowing your build. And the moment they left, it looked like everything stopped. Dust everywhere, pieces scattered, silence. But behind the scenes, something different was happening. You weren't lost. You were laying new foundations, quietly, brick by brick, unseen, unbothered. That's the part they didn't see coming. Most people assume silence means you're stuck. They scroll through your socials looking for clues. Some sad post, a cryptic quote, maybe a song that screams heartbreak. But you gave them nothing, no stories, no updates, just distance. And that distance wasn't empty, it was sacred. It was filled with discipline, sweat, reps, focus. You were rebuilding in the shadows while they were looking for signs of weakness. Because here's the truth, real growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens when no one's clapping, when no one's checking in, when it's just you versus your own thoughts at 6 a.m., getting after it. While they were wondering if you were okay, you were already 10 steps ahead, mentally sharper, emotionally cleaner, spiritually tougher. And let's not lie, yeah, it hurt at first. You wanted answers, you wanted closure, you wanted to understand why someone could pull away so easily. But you didn't let the pain paralyze you, you let it fuel you. You did what only a person with clarity and grit can do. You turned heartbreak into horsepower. That's the secret they never tell you. You don't heal by chasing people. You heal by chasing progress. You don't find strength in their apology. You find it in your ability to rise without one. Let me hit you with this. The person who rebuilds in silence becomes the storm no one sees coming. You became that storm, quiet, focused, unshakable. And while they were waiting for you to post something to prove you were okay, you were proving it to yourself. In every action, in every skipped distraction, in every rep at the gym, in every early morning, you showed up for you. They thought they left you behind, but really, they just freed you from the version of yourself that needed their presence to feel powerful. And now you're not just healed, you're upgraded. You're unavailable in a way that's not spiteful but evolved. Because this isn't about showing them what they lost, that's just a side effect. This is about becoming someone you refuse to lose again. A person who doesn't collapse, a person who constructs, a person who doesn't seek validation in someone's return, but in his own rise. So here's what I want you to do. Comment below right now. I use pain as fuel, not a leash. Let it be known to yourself, to the people watching, to the version of you that once thought this pain would break you, because it didn't. It built you, and you're just getting started. Stay with me, because next, you're not just building, you're becoming unshakable. 4. You mastered your frame. The person who controls his frame never fears who walks away because his power doesn't move with them. They tested you subtly at first. A little attitude here, a delayed response there. One moment they were warm, the next they were distant, hot and cold, push and pull. Just enough to keep you guessing, just enough to see if you'd chase. But what they didn't count on was you holding your frame. Now let's break that down. What is your frame? It's not a fake mask. It's not pretending to be unbothered while dying inside. No, your frame is the ground you mentally stand on. It's your sense of reality, your energy, your boundaries, your truth. It's how you carry yourself, especially when everything around you is trying to throw you off balance. Picture a tree in a storm. The wind howls, the rain lashes, but the roots run deep. The branches sway, but the tree doesn't fall. That's your frame. That's what they ran into when they tried to shake you. They threw tests, and instead of reacting, you stood tall. You didn't chase. You didn't explain. You didn't fight for your place in their life. You simply let your energy speak. I don't fold for confusion. I don't bend for games. And yeah, they might have called it cold, uncaring, emotionless, but deep down, they felt something else. Respect. Because people may not always like boundaries, but they remember them. And when they see a person who doesn't flinch, who doesn't justify, who doesn't shift just to be liked, they feel something they didn't expect. Admiration. You see, most people crumble under emotional pressure. They start explaining themselves just to avoid tension. They adjust to keep someone around. But the moment you start moving your frame to fit theirs, you lose yourself. You hand over the keys to your peace, and you teach them that your value is negotiable. But you did something rare. You stood firm. When they pulled back, you didn't lean in. When they got silent, you didn't get louder. You just sat in your energy, centered, controlled, calm. And that calm, that's what made you powerful. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's the heart of frame. realizing you don't have to react to every shift in their mood. You don't have to chase peace from people who thrive on creating chaos. You are the peace. You're not here to be chosen, you're here to choose, to decide who gets access to your life and who doesn't earn it. But let's keep it real. It's hard, especially if you've been used to being the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who always reaches out first. Holding your frame feels like silence when your heart wants to speak. It feels like stillness when your mind is screaming for clarity. But that's the test. That's where strength is, forged in restraint. Because when you master your frame, you stop reacting to the waves and you become the anchor. And now you're not the one wondering, did I lose them? You're the one they can't stop thinking about. Because they didn't just lose your presence, they lost their ability to shake it. So here's your reminder. Your value isn't proven through explanation. It's proven through consistency, through calm, through holding your ground when everything inside you wants to run. Comment below right now, my frame is unbreakable. Say it with your chest. Say it with your energy. Let the world know that the old version of you, the one who bent just to keep people close, is gone. 5. You became unreachable. A person who becomes unreachable doesn't disappear. He simply rises above the games he used to entertain. Let's make one thing clear. They didn't miss you when you were easy to reach, when you were always one message away, when you dropped everything to respond, to fix, to chase. No, that's when they felt safe, not safe in love, safe in control. But the moment you shifted, when you pulled back, when you stopped orbiting their world like a desperate satellite, that's when everything changed. You didn't block them. You didn't throw a tantrum. You didn't send a dramatic final message. You just stopped being available, quietly, calmly, fully, and that's what shook them. You see, most people don't value what they can easily access. That's human nature. We're wired to chase what feels scarce, not what's always there. And that's where you flipped the entire dynamic. You removed yourself, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, out of self-respect, out of the deep knowing that your attention is not free. It's not for anyone who doesn't value it. It's earned. Imagine being a locked vault, not because you're hiding something, but because your energy is no longer on the clearance rack. It's rare, it's refined, and only those who match your peace, your values, your vision get access. At first, they didn't notice. You were just a little quieter, a little slower to respond, a little more distant. They thought you were playing a game, thought you were trying to make them jealous. But then days turned into weeks, and that pattern didn't change. Because this wasn't a strategy, it was a shift. You weren't pretending to be unavailable. You became unavailable. Unavailable to drama, unavailable to inconsistency, unavailable to anything that disrupts your peace. And now that silence they once controlled, it's haunting them. Not because you said something to hurt them, but because you said nothing at all. There's a power in becoming unreachable, not just physically, but emotionally. You stop being the person who needs to explain himself. You stop being the person who needs to be understood by people who never really tried to understand you. You no longer serve your worth on a silver platter. Instead, you reserve it, and they feel it. They feel it when they check their phone and there's no new message. They feel it when they post something and you don't react. They feel it when they realize the door they once took for granted no longer opens. Let me drop this on you. People don't miss you when you leave. They miss you when they can't reach who you became after you left. And that's who you are now. Not bitter, just evolved. Not rude, just focused. Not running, just gone. In a way that says, you don't get access to this version of me. But I won't lie to you. Becoming unreachable isn't easy at first, especially if you're someone who used to overgive, someone who tried to love people into loving you back. But once you break free from that pattern, you realize how much power was hiding in your silence, in your discipline, in your distance. So don't chase, don't explain, don't perform for people who only clap when they're in control. Become the person who doesn't need to be reached. Become the person they replay in their mind, wondering how they let him slip away. Write it in the comments right now. My value rises in my absence. Stamp it into your identity. Let it remind you that distance isn't always loss. It's often your greatest gain. 6. You let karma teach, not emotion. When you stop trying to prove your worth, life starts doing it for you, in silence and with precision. They expected fireworks, they expected a meltdown, a long message, an argument, a post laced with pain. Because that's the cycle they're used to. Hurt someone, watch them spiral, then feed off the guilt. But what happens when there's no spiral? What happens when the person they tried to shake just stops playing? You didn't fight. You didn't beg. You didn't explain yourself to someone who already made the choice to hurt you. Instead, you stepped back and let karma teach the lesson your words never could. Let me give you an image. Imagine you're holding a mirror, and every time someone throws dirt at you, you wipe it clean and hold it up. Again, trying to show them who they are, hoping they'll finally see the damage they've done. But they never look, they never care, they just keep throwing. One day, you stop holding the mirror, you set it down, you walk away, and guess what? Now they're left facing their own reflection with no one left to blame for the mess. That's what happens when you let go. It's hard, isn't it? That instinct to defend yourself, to speak your truth, to make them understand. But the truth is, you don't heal by explaining your pain to the one who caused it. You heal by reclaiming your power and giving the universe room to work. Because karma, it never misses. It's not always loud, it's not always instant, but it's always accurate. And when someone mishandles a good soul, especially one that stayed loyal, stayed present, stayed solid, life finds a way to show them exactly what they lost. Not through revenge, but through revelation. See, your silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. It was knowing that some people only learn through loss, that your absence will echo louder than anything you could have said, that no paragraph, no argument, no emotional breakdown could ever match the stillness of a person who walks away with his dignity intact. As the old saying goes, never wrestle with pigs. You both get dirty and the pig likes it. You're not here to wrestle. You're not here to stoop. You're here to rise. You're here to show that real power doesn't chase chaos. It outgrows it. But let's be real for a moment. It felt like nothing was happening, like they were living their life unbothered while you were doing the hard work of healing. That's where doubt creeps in. Did they even feel it? Did they ever care? And that's when you need to remind yourself, karma works in silence just like you do. They won't post about it, they won't admit it, but they'll feel it, quietly, slowly, fully. Every time they come across someone who doesn't understand them like you did, every time they try to replace what they devalued and come up empty, every time your name shows up in their mind, not with comfort but with consequence. Because you didn't explode, you elevated. And that's what they never saw coming. They were prepared for the drama, the chase, the pain, but not for your indifference, not for your silence, not for your growth. You became untouchable, not out of hate, but out of healing. So if you're still tempted to send that message, to post that quote, to prove your worth, pause, breathe. Remember who you are. Remember who you're becoming. Let your evolution do the speaking. Comment below, I let my growth do the talking. Let the world know you've graduated from reactions to results, that you've stopped trying to teach people with emotion and started letting karma do what it does best. 7. You didn't collapse. You evolved. Some people break from the pain. Others break through. They thought you'd fall, that the silence would crush you. that the distance would eat you alive. They believed you'd sit there scrolling through old messages, replaying memories, waiting for a sign that maybe, just maybe, they'd come back. That's what they pictured, a person stuck in rewind. But what they didn't realize is that the storm they left you in didn't break you, it built you. Let me paint the picture. Think of fire. When it hits the wrong thing, it destroys. It turns it to ash. But when it hits the right thing, iron, steel, it forges, it strengthens, it makes it sharper than it was before. You were never meant to be burned. You were meant to be forged. And now you walk with a silence that has weight. You speak less, but when you do, it lands. Because the version of you they thought would fall apart doesn't exist anymore. It's easy to look strong when life is easy, but what makes a person unshakable is what he does with pain when no one's watching. Most people numb it, distract themselves, run from it. But you did what most never will. You sat with it. You let it sting. You let it crack you open. And instead of trying to glue the old pieces back together, you built something new from the rubble. They called it cold when you stopped reaching out. They called it ego when you stopped chasing. But here's the truth, they were just uncomfortable, watching you evolve into someone who no longer needed to be needed. Because once you stopped focusing on what left, you started focusing on what was next. You took every ounce of that heartbreak and poured it into your mission, the gym, the craft, the vision. You started moving different, thinking sharper, walking straighter, not out of revenge, but out of reconstruction. You didn't want them back. You wanted yourself back. And now that you've got him, you're not letting go again. Let's break a lie real quick. They'll tell you healing is about finding closure, that it's soft, peaceful, quiet. Nah, real healing is violent, not toward others, but toward your old self. It's war with the weaker version of you, the one who begged, the one who needed validation to feel worthy, the one who settled for less just to feel something. That man, he's gone. You buried him in the process. And now you're something else entirely. As Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." You found your why, and it wasn't them, it was you. Your peace, your purpose, your power. Now they'll look at you and wonder what happened, why you feel so distant, why your energy doesn't respond to theirs anymore. But it's not distance, it's depth. They're not disconnected from you. They're disconnected from the version of you they once knew. And they'll never meet this new one because this version doesn't show up for half love and breadcrumbs. You didn't become numb, you became aware. And now, every step you take is a reminder that the pain didn't kill you. It woke you up. It broke the illusion, and in that breaking, you found your breakthrough. 8. You became the one they can't forget. They won't miss who you were. They'll miss who you became after they lost access. Let's get one thing straight. They didn't miss you when you were available, when you were quick to reply, when you made them a priority. Even while they treated you like an option. That version of you they got used to. He was predictable, safe. But the version you became after the silence, after the rebuild, after you stopped chasing, that's the one they can't forget. Because now you don't show up in their life. You show up in their mind, in their regrets, in their what-ifs. You became the lesson their ego didn't see coming, the one they can't reach. Not because you blocked them, but because you outgrew them. Let's break it down. At first, they thought the distance was temporary, that your silence was a stunt, that you'd come back eventually like you always did. But you didn't. You didn't post anything for attention. You didn't orbit their world hoping for a breadcrumb. You didn't try to prove your worth. You just disappeared. And in that disappearance, you didn't shrink. You elevated. Imagine a book they were reading, skimming through, half-focused, taking it for granted. Then one day, the pages vanish. The story ends, and suddenly they realize It was the best part of their shelf, the one they didn't pay attention to while they had it. Now they're flipping through empty pages trying to remember what they overlooked. They might not show it, they might never say it, but you live rent-free in their mind. Not because of who you were when they left, but because of who you became when they did. This is what happens when you stop chasing and start choosing. This is what happens when you become unavailable, not as a tactic, but as a transformation. You're no longer easy to reach, and not because you're playing games, but because your time, your energy, your presence, it's expensive now. It costs peace, it costs effort, it costs respect, and not everyone can afford it. They'll hear your name and feel that drop in their stomach, not from guilt, but from realization. Realization that you were solid, that you were consistent, that you were the rare one, and they lost access when they thought they had time. Because here's the part they never expected. You weren't trying to be remembered. You just refused to be forgotten. As Stoicism teaches, you don't control who remembers you, but you control what they remember you for. They won't remember you for begging, for over-explaining, for emotional chaos. They'll remember the stillness, the discipline, the moment they look back and you were no longer standing where they left you. You didn't move on to make a statement. You moved on because staying still would have meant staying stuck. You outgrew the situation, the pattern, and the person. And when that happens, there's no going back, not even out of curiosity, because you're not the same person anymore. You're not chasing. You're chosen by your future, your peace, your power. And once you taste that, you'll never beg to be understood again. So write this in the comments right now. I became the standard. Say it with full chest. Let the old version of you hear it. Let them hear it too, even if only in silence. And if this spoke to you, if you know you're stepping into that unshakable version of yourself, like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications.